Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
You wanted the best, you got the best from my home studio on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto, and today we're going to be talking about the tracks debate. If you don't know what I'm referring to, bands using tracks when they play live. Eddie Trunk has been a huge champion against tracks being used live, and I will say I have a different perspective than Eddie. Eddie is a purist. He always says, like, what am I, crazy to think a live performance should be 100% live? And I fully get that, especially for the type of music that Eddie's into, you know, like the classic rock, a lot of the 80s stuff, because they never really used tracks. That's not something they ever utilized, and then suddenly they're doing it live because they can't hit certain notes and things like that. Now, I say it depends greatly on the band. I mean, Nine Inch Nails have been using drum machines in their music since the 80s. You know, Ministry is a band that uses a ton of electronics. So if you see them live, you should not be shocked to hear a bunch of electronics on stage that are programmed. That's part of the music. You know, Eddie will say, I don't care if it's an intro here or there, but there are bands that have been modeled off of using a lot of electronics. Now, the thing that I've seen recently as someone who listens to all different types of rock and metal is in the metalcore genre, bands really drastically changing things. Bands that used to see that may have utilized some electronics, really adding more and more, getting rid of certain members or members leaving and then not replacing them. And I have two examples that I'm going to get into. The first is Born of Osiris, and I want to make this clear. Born of Osiris are an extremely musically talented band. They don't need to use tracks. They do play 100% live when they're playing on their instruments, and they do some amazing guitar solos, and they do those all live. Here's where it just gets interesting, though, and I'll do a little comparison here, is that Born of Osiris used to have a bass player who was absolutely incredible. He then left the band, was replaced by another bass player, but he would play the guitar tracks live. So you would have two guitarists live suddenly and no live bass. The bass would be on a track. They also had a great keyboardist. Now look, Born of Osiris relies on a ton of electronics. They're not going to play all of the keyboard parts live. Totally understand that. And he was a great backing vocalist. He is no longer in the band, so when you see them live now, all of the keyboards are in a program. You don't hear him on the backing tracks, and he was a great vocalist. He wasn't just a backing vocalist, I should say. He was doing a lot of the lead vocals and a lot of the Queen vocals. So I'm going to start with a comparison of when they had David, their former bassist in the band, and what they sounded like as a live band at that time. So this is from 2013, prior to him leaving the band. And this is Machine. Great song. So you hear those backing vocals from the keyboardist, and he's doing some of the keys live. So you got one guitarist, you got a bassist, you got a vocalist, you got a drummer there. And some of the drums might be on triggers, I don't know. I mean, or he's just an amazing drummer, but, which he is. So, obviously, when he leaves the stage there's stuff playing behind him on a track. Totally get that. But they're a band that utilized different tracks, but for the most part, what you were hearing was live. So, I'm going to play you the same song, but with the current band, and show you kind of the difference of what you're going to see of a Born of Osiris show in 2025.
One more time, hands in the fucking air!
This is from last year. So as you can see there, the other guitarist hit something on the keypad, and it just triggered from there. So yeah, you don't hear those backing vocals that were really prominent and great vocalist. The former guy. And then the other thing that you'll notice, you have two guys on guitar. So then you have the bass on a track. They're still a good live band. I'm not going to say like this is not a good performance. And like the last time I saw them, people are into it, but at the same time, I just feel like it's weird. I get it because of the fact that these are bands playing on a club level. So it's hard to just find someone to replace and be able to tour and go out there. But at the same point, it's like, I do want to see a live bassist. I do want to see a live keyboardist up there. And I do want to hear the backing vocals. And it's just like if I compare what we watched from 2013 to 11 years later, 2013 performance is significantly better. They're still amazing players. Still love everything they're putting out. However, I just think it goes downhill when you rely this much on electronics. Before we get to the next band, as I always like to tell you guys, we have limited edition merch available on the Ian Scotto Rocks Etsy store. Link in bio, double-sided mug, and the limited edition t-shirt. So for me, this next band is truthfully a little bit more egregious. And I feel like I'm going to get accused of being a hater if some of their diehard fans who like the new stuff watch this, or even the band members. I love For the Fallen Dreams. They were a band that I got into from the very beginning. I saw them right when Dylan Richter replaced Chad Ruhlig and during the Tour for Changes. And I thought that was an amazing album. I thought Relentless was an amazing album. And I saw them constantly ever since then, and they always put on a killer live show. Look, the lineup of that band constantly changed, and also interest kind of waned. I mean, they have videos on YouTube with millions of views. However, I remember seeing them around like 2018, 2019 in New Jersey at a bar of a couple dozen people. And I think because of that, they kind of redefined their sound and are they're modernizing, I guess you could say. But they've become a completely different band. And the one thing that really sucks from the last time I saw them, among other things I'm going to get into, there's only been one constant member of the band on every single album. And that is the guitarist, Jim Hocking. And I expect to see him when I see them live. And I do know, just as a guy who looks into their backgrounds, that Jim has gotten really into being a real estate broker or real estate agent, which I completely respect. I know how hard it is to make a living in a live touring band. But to me at that point, man, if you're the one guy who's been consistent on every single album and you can't tour, I don't know, just don't tour anymore. Because what they're putting forth now to me is like, it's a shadow of the music they were making. And the live show, they're egregiously using tracks. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, more so with the new songs. And also, you'll see, once again, no live bassist on stage. So I guess this has become a trend. Just have two guitarists up there and put the bass on a track. Like, I don't know, man. It's weird. I like seeing a good bassist up there. I think every single part of a band is important. And if we start putting everything to track, then I might as well just put on a VR headset, right? So you'll see what I'm talking about here. This is from 2023. So relatively recent. He's not singing. That's just... He's talking to the crowd over that singing part. So it's blatantly on a track, man. Like, you can't have one of the guitarists sing that part, or you can't sing that part, then, and you don't have the one consistent guy in the band live anymore. Dude, I love these guys. I loved these guys at one point, so I hate to sound like a hater, but it's like, at that point, hang it up, man. Because this is really a shadow of what this band used to be to me. this is just not a good performance. And I'm gonna be straight up. And if you like it, go see them. Right? I'm not trying to take money out of anyone's pocket, and if that's your thing, but I'm just giving you my honest feedback. And I know that in comments of recent live videos, there's other people who echo what I'm saying. And it's like, dude, if you look at old For the Fallen Dreams performances, especially with Dylan Richter, who I thought was really good live, this is their old songs. And they still do the old songs, but like, dude, this went hard. This is from 2013. These guys went so hard. Here we go.
This one, it goes out to all the fans.
I'm anticipating. That's why I'm nodding my head. I'm thinking of how it sounds on the album.
Right fucking now.
Here we go. This band went so hard, man, and I know that Dylan Richter was not the one who sang this song. It's actually the guy we saw before, Chad, but this was a killer live band, man. I don't know what happened. I really don't, because I just felt majorly disappointed the last time I saw them, and that was my honest feedback. So my conclusion with the tracks debate is there's a lot of bands out there, once again, Born of Osiris, who have always used tracks. They've always used electronics. If you go to their show and don't expect to hear any electronics, then you're delusional. That's always been a part of their sound. I just would like to see a live bass player. Their keyboardist and other vocalist was amazing. I think that guy's very hard to replace, but at some point you have to replace him. I don't want to just hear all of that on a track. I guess it's whatever the fans accept, though. But at that point, hey, let's just have one guitarist on stage, and let's have the drums on a track, right? You could put drums on a track, so why not? And then For the Fallen Dreams, man, it's just, to me, a band that's really fallen off. I know that they've done select shows in their home state of Michigan where Jim does show up, but they're a band that I followed from the very beginning, as I said, and man, they have so many albums that really, really went hard. And if they don't have the full lineup here, because if they did, it would look like LA Guns lineup. Like, For the Fallen Dreams has had 100 members, I think. Changes, amazing album, and that's with Chad. Relentless, amazing. Backburner, great. Wasted Youth, if I'm going to be honest, that's when they really fell off to me. But I was like, you know what? It's one bad album, and they brought back Chad. Heavy Hearts was great. I really liked 6, even though it was definitely more modernized. And what I heard of this new album, and especially live, I go, what has happened to this band, man? So maybe they could come back and surprise me the next time that they put something out. I'll definitely give it a listen. But for a band I've probably seen live 10 times, I can't be excited to see that live anymore. I don't want to hear clean vocals on a track over the singer talking to the crowd and bass on a track. So you got to use some discretion here, and I really feel like these bands should either bring their A game when they're doing live shows, or at some point hang it up and maybe just do studio recordings if you're still passionate about it. But yeah, anyone my age who saw these bands 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's really hard to watch some of them now. Don't feel that way about Born of Osiris, because I think they're still bringing it, but I think they need to make some changes. For the Fallen Dreams, disappointed, and that's where I'll leave it at. With that, if you want to binge watch some of my content here on Ian Scotto Rocks, check out this video right here, and be sure to subscribe, and also leave your feedback, because some of you may say I'm out of my mind and these bands both sound better than ever. And if you feel that way, leave it below. Roast me. I don't care. Let me know what you think. But just keep it here on Ian Scotto Rocks.